Islam, Assalamu alaikum, Salam Allah, Shalom, peace to the gods and earth. I'm your brother in the struggle for freedom, justice, and equality, Brother Minister Alif Allah, and today we would like to share with you an answer, if you will, to a brother's question regarding why we say we're black in the Nation of Islam. The question came from a brother that I love and respect from the Moorish Science Temple in the wilderness of North America, and I tried to give the brother some insights on why we say that, and at the same time balance it out where I explained to him, like, when we say that, we're not saying that in opposition to our beloved brothers and sisters who follow the teachings of the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali. As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad explained to us, that basically he recognized and respect all those that paved the way for him, not just the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey or the UNIA or the Universal Negro Improvement Association, not just our beloved Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali of the Moorish Science Temple in North America, not just Father Law, Clarence 13X, not just Father Divine, so forth. It's many. But of course, whenever you have master teachers, they're going to have wisdom. And the messenger teaches us that wisdom is independent of anyone. And we see more into the depths of things when we go into the wisdom of the masters. So I'm not here to debate. I don't do that. I don't get into arguments. The messenger teaches us, I quote him, we don't have time to dispute truth. Now, I mean, back in the 60s, it was the time for that. Malcolm used to love debate. He'd be on stage arguing with the Christians, whoever. Now, I mean, but we try to get focused on nation building. And the purpose of that is everyone, whether you're Pan-African, 5%, FOI, MGT, Hebrew, whatever. At the end of the day, if you really think about it, everybody has their own world view or their universal view. That's how they perceive the reality that they see and hear and experience in their particular lives. Now, I mean, the Hindus have a world view. The Buddhists have a world view. The Muslims, the Sunnis, the Salafi has a world view. The Pan-Africans have, the revolutionaries have, the atheists have a worldview. America has a worldview. So Americans look at the world from the perspective of the Pilgrims, the Founding Fathers, their civilization, their culture, their language, their way of doing everything. So there's really not a right and wrong thing with that. The thing is that you can't knock our worldview because you have a different worldview. Now, if you want to come together and have a meeting of the minds, we can sit down and we can build intelligently like civilized people and go into why we move the way we move, why we teach what we teach. So today's topic is black is the original nationality. Now, I mean, we like to open up in a brief prayer, if you will. Allow me to extend my hands as though I'm receiving a gift. And those of you that believe as we believe, we ask you to extend your hands as though you're receiving a gift. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin rahmanir rahim maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Surat al-Adina Nata Alayhim Gabriel Maktubi Alayhim Balad Dolim. Amen. Our Fatiha, or our closing prayer, is different from the traditional Muslims' opening prayer. Messenger Elijah Muhammad has his own worldview on the Al-Fatiha, and it goes like this. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praises is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. not just Earth, but any planet, any system, any spiritual science. He's the Lord of the worlds. He's the Rabbil Alamin. He's the Lord, the Rab, the Lord of the worlds. The Lord of the worlds, the Alamin. The beneficent, the most merciful. Master of the day of judgment in which we now live. There are over 1 billion Muslims on earth. When they say their Al-Fatiha, and they speak Arabic better than me, they know it better than me. But the understanding of Messenger Elijah Muhammad is the best. It's directly from the Supreme Allah of God who came to person, Master Fard Muhammad. So when he says the judgment, he's talking about the judgment. Not that you're going to physically die, some ghost's going to float out your dead body and go off into the cosmos somewhere to meet up with some mystery spirit Allah, or spirit Yahweh, or spirit God, or spirit creator. But that everything that is of the essence of you exists inside every atom that exists in creation. So when we say the judgment, we're talking about judgment on earth while we physically live. When we talk about the resurrection, resurrection simply means to rise up. We're not talking about a resurrection in the sense of like someone physically coming out of the graveyard, but we're coming out of the ignorance. We're coming out of the hood. We're coming out of the ghetto. We're coming out of the poverty. We're coming out of the literacy. We're coming out of the violence. We're coming out of the crime. We're coming out of the division. We're coming out of the disease. We're coming out of all of the low vibrations that exists in every atom of the universe. The lower the vibration, the weaker we become. We're coming from the physical plane trying to vibrate up to the will, or the highest plane. We're taught that there are 7 dimensions to our mind. The physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, the soul, the self, and the will. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that we believe in the day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, to thee alone do we seek for aid. Meaning we don't no longer look towards a mystery God. We search for that mystery God. And that mystery God wasn't on top of the tallest mountain. That mystery God was not at the lowest point of the ocean. That mystery God was not buried anywhere inside of any cave or any hole inside of the earth. That mystery God did not exist on another planet. That mystery God did not exist beyond the sun, moon, and stars. That mystery God existed in the consciousness and subconsciousness of yourself. Meaning that that mystery God was nothing but a thought made manifest from human beings. God did not make human beings. Human beings made thousands and thousands of gods. O Allah, guide us on the right path. The right path, or the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path. We're not talking a path where we're saying we're some holy than thou people, that I'm better than you. Now, I mean, I know more than you. No, we're saying that we're striving to be on the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We're striving to stay focused on the messenger's message to help navigate us or guide us through this age of mess, because we live in a crooked and corrupt and upside down world. The path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not of those upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray after they have heard thy teaching. Amen. After they have heard thy teaching. Amen. After the FOI and MGTs, after black people as a mass, after they heard Master Fard Muhammad teaching, after they heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teach and sacrifice for 40 years in the 1930s, in the 1940s, in the 1950s, in the 1960s, in the 1970s, after 44 teaching of the messenger of God himself, most of us strayed away from the messenger's teachings and became other than our own selves again. So we have to ask Allah to get us back on the straight path, back on the Sirat al-Mustaqim, get back on your deen. Now, I mean, so we say Amen. We used to say Amen. Hebrews be like, Christians be like, Amen. 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 Amun, the God. Who? The black man is God. So black is the original nationality, and that's our worldview, if you will. The messenger teaches us that when we study history, we have to be mindful that history is literally his story. Now, I mean, so often what happens is we get information from our oppressor. We be like, oh, you can't be black because the dictionary says black says this. The dictionary says white means this. It's like, yeah, if you are following the white man, if you're following the Americans, if you're following the French, if you're following the Portuguese, if you're following Spain, if you're following the Eurocentric way of thinking, we don't let the devil tell us how to interpret our worldview. We don't follow the devil's world. So it's like, yes, the devil has tricked or deceived the whole world. So when we look at the dictionary, it's a whole bunch of dictionaries. But the most famous one, if you will, is the American dictionary, the Noah Webster's dictionary. Noah Webster was some white man. I mean, he was an oppressor to us. His interpretations and translations and transliterations and definitions are rooted in white supremacy. So if he say black means all this stuff, if he say black doesn't mean nationality, I'm not going to say, oh, you got to follow the Edimon, and it's like that Edimon is a European man. I'm not going to go to Black's Law Dictionary and interpret it to mean my world. I'll look at the dictionary and study his dictionary to see how his language operates. I'll look at his law and see how his language and his laws operate, but his laws and his language is based for his people. And we have to be mindful of that fact, because when you go back to the origin of a thing, you're going back to the original, and the original has no birth record. So we say that the Nation of Islam has no birth record. We have no beginning nor ending. Well, I've physically never been a member of the Moors in the sense of following the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I've never been a member of the Garveyites or following the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. I've never formally been a member of the Nation of Gods and Earths. I never took my Shahada under the Orthodox or the Sunni Muslims or the Salafi. I've never been a Hebrew Israelite. I've never been a Jehovah's Witness. I've never been a Baptist or a Catholic or a Methodist or a Jew or what have you. But that's organized religion. Now, I mean, you have to do something like, say, people like, you want to join Nationality, you got to get your X. I never signed and got no X's and none of that. I follow the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I believe in spiritual science. So for me, there is no contradiction in believing in a theist or believing in God and being an atheist. I love atheist teachers. Some atheists teach the reality of God, but they don't even realize. They just never met someone that understood spiritual science. So they are arguing one worldview against another worldview. But if you understand the science of both sides, you see Dr. Yaqub's law of divide and conquer taking place amongst the original people. It was Dr. Yaqub Malik Shabazz that taught his followers how to come in and divide and conquer. Now, I mean, he taught them a negative form of Islam. God adds and multiplies. Satan divides and subtracts. God and the devil are not two separate, distinct beings. See, people don't understand. They be like, Lucifer was a fallen angel. Satan is at the bottomless pit of hell. It's like, listen, move all the mumble jumble, all of the wrong dogma, all of the wrong interpretations, all of the limited views on that concept. What you're really talking about is our ancestors' concept of the Kabbalion, cause and effect, actions and reactions, the pendulum. Now, I mean, you're really talking about the law of vibration. You're really talking about the universal science that most scientists, while they're good at science, they really overlook the fact that you cannot have a true science without the X factor. You need an unknown factor if you're really looking for the truth. Religions need an X factor. I'm talking about the Nation of Islam, the Moors, the 5%. Everyone needs that X factor, because in reality, you cannot have a positive without a negative. You cannot have truth without the lie. You cannot have God without the devil. You cannot have man without woman. A lot of guys are like, yo, but man, God, this is the... It's like, how came that first God? Well, he sparked the universe. What was this universe? It was the womb of space. The womb? Stop right there. The womb. You had hot and cold, dry and wet, life and death. You had the nature, or you had Father Law and Mother Nature. There's a balance there. Now, that does not negate or take away the reality in the universe that some lights are brighter than other lights. Some darkness are darker than other darknesses. Some people are older than younger people. There's you could say a dichotomy, a universal dichotomy, that we consider the very smallest thing in creation. Say the quark, or the baby atom, the positron, whatever nomenclature or scientific term you want to use. Let's say we cracked open one of these atoms, as the messenger said, and Al Sayers arrived in 1974. He said, how came that first God, Elijah? He said, you see these atoms out here? They're round shaped, they're oblong, they like an egg. It's not a perfect cipher there. The earth is not a perfect cipher, but it has a wobble there. Now, I mean, you crack that joint open, and what do you find inside them atoms? Everything that you see out here, you see in there. There's carbon. Now I mean, hydrogen, helium is in there. Now I mean, I see some oxygen. Now I mean, and if you mathematically start adding and multiplying those atoms, you start dividing those atoms within those atoms. You start subtracting those atoms. You start adding and multiplying with those atoms. This mathematics of these atoms, the cause and effect, the actions and the reactions, set off all of this mathematical results, all of this creation that we now see. There's no mystery God that does this. This is done by the original people, who is Allah, the supreme being, the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. We say black man because something or someone had to be first. That's just mathematics. Now, I mean, when we say it's mathematics, we say it in the sense that you have dominant and recessive genes. We have strong and weak sound waves. Like coming out, this is traveling 1,120 feet per second. These vibrations is going to reach you. But these vibrations that's reaching you is not reaching you quicker than you seeing me. Because when you see me, your sight, your brain is seeing this backwards. You're seeing from the back of your brain. Actually, your sight is traveling 186,000 miles per second. This is only 1,120 feet per second. So you can see the lightning. And then later you'll hear the thunder. Boom. And you can use that formula, that mathematics, to let you know how far away am I from that lightning strike. Likewise, in the spiritual world, you can do the math and be like, how far am I away from the reality of God? How far am I away from my true self, the true culture of my people? So we can't have all these middlemen like Noah Webster's telling us how to find ourselves. We can't run with that. Now, I mean, I want to share with you something that I was able to read years ago, like 40 years ago sometime. Now, I mean, like I said, I've never been a member of the Moore Science Temple, but, you know, I used to go to their services. And when I went to that service, the first time I went to that service, I was already a minister of the Nation of Islam. This was back in, like I would say about 1980, I would say around 87, about 1987. No, in fact, it was earlier than that. It was, around 1987. I would say like 87. You know what I mean? And, I didn't know much about him except what I read a little bit from the messenger, and I seen pictures of the Holy Prophet, and it attracted me. Like, yo, look, you could just look at the photo, be like, he ain't got to say nothing. You know how they say a picture's worth a million words, 1,000 words. Just looking at the picture, it was like, this is someone important. This is someone that has knowledge of self. This is someone that I could learn from. You know what I mean? And at the time, I wanted to buy some literature or something like that. I can't recall that part too clearly. It was so long ago. But back in the day, I don't think they really used to sell the literature. I think the brother was telling me, oh no, we don't really sell stuff like that. You gotta register, you know what I mean, become a member, so forth and so on like that. That's basically how it was going. But he had like old newspaper articles and stuff like that there that he used to share with me that I used to read, and it was intriguing, especially the years, how early it was in the black liberation struggle. Now I mean, so I always had love and respect for what he taught, and as time moved on, you know, seeking unity and respect, because you know I'm in the Moorish temple on their rostrum with their permission, with the Grand Sheik opening up Circle 7, you know what I mean, honoring their house, respecting their house, and our language was always one of respect and unity. And I wasn't in there teaching conversion, if you will. I wasn't trying to convert them. I was trying to extend our love and support and unity to that particular Circle 7. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just me. It was brothers from the 5%, Afrocentric, and you know, we basically had a meeting of the minds first. And basically, what we basically concluded was what we was going to do was this. We basically was going to take, each week we would take a subject from the Circle 7 Holy Quran and expound on that subject according to our belief system, meaning that if you're 5%, you'll teach from the Circle 7 on the reality of God. That's Prophet Noah. I read the Holy Quran, Circle 7 and all that. You know what I mean? This is a copy right here for those of you that's not familiar with it. And he drops jewels. I mean, we used to have fun with the See, people think it's fun arguing. It's fun finding the common denominator, as the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan put it so eloquently. You know what I mean? It's fun when you see there's no need for us to debate this. Like, yo, we all in the street. This what we believe. You know what I mean? We may not go with all the nuances, you know, crossing T's, dotting I's, dressing the same, eat the same food, but I was impressed. Like, they used to make cosmetics, clothes, had the military. Marcus Garvey, phew, when I used to hear him teach, Marcus Garvey's followers, their militancy, and I, you know, in North Philadelphia, you know, I was blessed to speak at the UNIA several times there, you know what I mean, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as well as the community center. They used to hold their meetings in, you know what I mean. But the thing that I could see the militancy of the FOI in the followers of Marcus Garvey. I don't say that like I'm saying they plagiarized this, be Don Balaj Muhammad copied off of so. It's like it's a worldview. This stuff, you like those soldiers you see like that are soldiers that you see the FOI standing up. You'll put that on top of a picture of the SS in Germany. Same thing. You put that on top of a picture of the Kemetic warriors, that the people of ancient Egypt. Same thing. Black men always been soldiers. We put that on top of the Moors. Same thing. Shaka Zulu army, same. They FOI. They don't call themselves FOIs. I'm not arguing with Shaka Zulu and his military, his training. I'm like looking at his training like, yo, this dude, I mean, that's my hero right there. That's a god to me. You know what I mean? So you want to learn to appreciate our differences. You know what I mean? And focus on our need for unity. So let me read something, just the front and back of this for y'all, because this is important. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Circle 7, divinely prepared by the noble prophet, Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father, God, Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of the life with his Father God, Allah. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Know thyself and your Father, God, Allah, that you may learn to love instead of hate. Every man needs to worship under his own vine and fig tree, the uniting of Asia. That's profound. Know thyself and your Father, God, Allah, that you may learn to love instead of hate. All this player hating we doing and debating over trivial things, it's distracting us from saving our people. It's like, I like putting, you see me when I'm teaching, I may have my t-shirt on, a hoodie, razor stubble. Because I'm not trying to show off. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm not trying to make you think that we can't be brothers and sisters in the struggle. Because I'm looking at the world view. I'm looking at some real stuff. You know, we deal with real stuff each and every day. Now, I mean, like, when I move out the day, I got to take this bow tie off. There are sisters and brothers and poor white people in Philadelphia and Kensington, Allegheny that's nodding out right now. Sores on that body. Mentally blind. Mentally they ain't trying to hear nothing. Mentally they ain't doing no rapping. They are like the people in the Caucasus Mountains. At the sight of you walk down there at nighttime, they literally might just jump up on you and kill you. Not for your money. They might kill you just to kill you. This is the world we're living in. We're living in a world where the babies is hungry. They starving. There's brothers, FOIs, registered Muslims, registered MGT, that are in prison holes all over the United States of America suffering under unjust guards. So the struggle is real for me. I don't have time to play games with this stuff. I'm the type of person, like, the message teaches us a Muslim respects all people, demands respect all people. I respect our people. I respect my brother in particular because I want my brother to respect me because I know me. I would like to turn our attention to an old booklet that I wrote. Wrote it back around 40 years ago, called How to Enjoy Peace of Mind, Happiness, Health, and Prosperity. The Seventh Dimension, Volume 1. I'm not going to read the book. I'm going to read the back cover of the book because it summarizes my worldview, if you will. Okay. It reads, and I quote, "For untold eons, humanity has questioned the meaning of life. As knowledge increased, the people began to feel more secure and began to explore, expand, and experiment with themselves and the universe around them. In this great age of advanced science, humanity subconsciously think that mankind can solve any problem that comes up. This false dependency on this frail and limited spectrum has manifested a world in denial. Marriages, governments, religions, education, economies, and natural abodes are in a state of ruin because humanity has failed to ask the 7 essential elements. These are namely who, what, when, where, how, why, and really? The present rise of pseudoscientists, quackery, psychics, palm readers, crystal mediums, enchanters, magicians, faith healers, and love connectors has stripped the people of the natural power of self-empowerment and, for the right price, placed it in the hands of the mind masters. As we enter the 21st century, it is time to grasp the latent powers within. It is time for a change, a universal change. For the dominant thought pool of the masses is locked on total dissatisfaction, disenchantment, disillusionment, and chaos. It is time to go to the root of this mind war. To understand the time, we must piece it apart, for the wise messengers of old instructed us to reflect. Surely hindsight is 20/20 vision. Long before angels had wings. Long before hell was hot. Long before stars filled the night sky, human beings possessed the kinetical ability to communicate from mind to mind. Women today possess more intuitive residue and often wonder why men cannot read their minds. Our worldview is based on the future being one with our past. We think in circular reasoning. Our past is our present, and our present is our future. It's not linear as the European thinkers teach. So when we go into black as a nationality, I want you to get completely out the box. I want you to go back with me for a brief moment. I'm gonna just summarize it real briefly. I could explain this for like 10 years, 80 years, 96 years, put in it volumes of books. I could put 50-cent words in there, but I want you to understand it in a snapshot. I just want to give you like a quick link, as we say in this day and time. So you just go straight to the core of it. And I'm going to give you some quotes from the Messenger books to help you get a better understanding on some things. But let me summarize this freestyle for you. When we in the Nation of Islam say black, what we're talking about is beyond the etymon. It's beyond nationality. It's beyond religion. It's our worldview on who we are as a people. Why are we here? How did we get here? Where are we going? All of these things are answered in the theology of Messenger Elijah Muhammad's teachings. When you say, and I'm speaking hypothetically, when I say you, I'm not talking about you per se. I'm just speaking in general terms so that you can get a generalized picture of this. Let's take the nationality of America. If an American say, I am an American, what do they mean? They're talking about their worldview, which is not based on history. It's not based on facts. It's not based on truth. It's not based on religion. It's based on their understanding at the present time of their reality. I respect that. Now, if I was to take them before a scientist or a college professor, the professor, if they was to have someone play devil's advocate and critique their thoughts on that, they would realize that, I'm thinking this out of a box. I do have when I say this, I am limiting my thing. I mean, because if you say, okay, when you say you're American in 2022, what was an American before the Louisiana Purchase? Louisiana wasn't part of America. What was an American nationality before Texas? before California, before New Mexico? What was the founding fathers' concept of an American when they had 13 colonies? They didn't have 50 states yet. Okay? When you get into that type of nationalism, that type of black nationalism, you really limit black nationalism. You're underestimating and doubting what we mean when we say black nationalism. We're not talking about limited black nationalism. We're talking about infinite black nationalism. We're talking about black nationalism that existed yesterday, it exists today, it exists tomorrow. You cannot stop or destroy black nationalism, whatever it is you're believing, whatever it is you're doing, whatever concepts you have, whatever your worldview may be. It takes you right back to black nationalism. Africa today is not the Africa of yesterday. Now, I mean, when we study the birth of nations, the birth of nation states, the migration of tribes, and how those tribes expand and grow, the borders of Pennsylvania. Now, I mean, let's take a look at Pennsylvania for a minute. I'm in the state of Pennsylvania. This state, William Penn's father owed the king some money. He didn't have the money. So he died, and the son basically had to get the money that the king owed his father. He was his heir, if you will. The king was like, listen, really ain't got that money for you like that, but I got this land in the New World called Sylvania. You know what I mean? Sylvania means woodlands. I got these woods out there, and you know, it's 150 miles going north to south, and it's 300 miles going from east to west. It's 45,000 square miles of woodland, Sylvania. You're being persecuted over here because of your way of teaching these teachings. Like Yakub was persecuted because of his way of teaching. And they settled, it was like, look, you go ahead over there and set up your new, where y'all could teach y'all thing over there. And Yakub, y'all could go over here on the island of Penang or Patmos, and y'all could do y'all thing over there. William Penn agreed. Dr. Yakub agreed. And Dr. Yakub produced a new nationality known as the Caucasians, known as the Europeans. William Penn did his thing. And when William Penn did his thing over here in Sylvania, they prefixed his name to Sylvania and called it Pennsylvania. So it's Penn's Woodlands. And when I was a child growing up, his statue was the highest statue over the city of Philadelphia. Now, Black Power could not come in and say, oh, we're Philadelphians. I'm a North Philadelphian. I'm a West Philadelphian. It's like, that's true, but that's the limited you. That's the limit. That's not looking at the totality of who you are. Now, I mean, because in North Philadelphia, you go down, you know, I used to live on 16th and Westmoreland. I used to live in Erie Avenue. Now, I mean, my uncle Skeeter had an apartment right there on Allegheny Avenue. So as a child, now, I mean, I used to get my hair cut right there on Erie Avenue at the FOI barbershop. I mean, you know, I grew up with Max cheese sticks and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the totality of who our people was. Some of us came from down south. Some of us came from South Philly, West Philly. Some of us came from New York, from Pittsburgh, from California. Some of us came from Mexico. Some of us came from Puerto Rico. So our people, when we talk about who we are, it's not a single note. It's a gumbo. I mean, we're mixed with everything and everybody, because everybody and everything came from that original black source. If I was to take some white paint, some red paint, some green paint, some yellow paint, some gray paint, some blue paint, some purple paint, some orange paint, pink paint, whatever, I take all these paints and I'll be like, these are all different colors. And I take the orange paint and mix it with the yellow paint and I stir it up, it transforms and becomes India, turns into a red paint. This orange mixed with the yellow turn red. If I mix a balance of this black with a balance of this white and stir it up, it turned gray. What happens if I mix all these colors together and stir them up? They turn black. It has to be a color, because black is the base from which all colors derive from. So black is distinct and unique in and of itself, because technically it's not a color, it's the color that all colors come from, depending on the prism or the spectrum that you're looking through. Okay? So you may look at something and your brain and interpret it and see it a certain way. But an animal will see it a different way. A bat will see it a different way. A dog will see it a different way. A white man will see it a different way. A Chinese man will see it a different way. An African will see it a different way. So when it comes to nationalism, you got to understand that the borders of Cuba today was not the borders of Cuba yesterday. When we say New York, the land was there, but it wasn't no New York yet. It became a New York. It becomes an Egypt. It becomes a Kemet. It becomes a Nubia. It becomes a Sudan. The border of Sudan today is not the border that it was 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 10 million years ago. It fluctuates. It's different people migrating there. There's different people leaving there, going other places. You got to understand that you be like, the Arabs, you know what I mean? We don't mess with them Arabs. It's like the Arabs is the exact same people of Africa. They're the same people. The Arabs, you notice how you look at the map, you see Egypt connected to Asia Minor. You know what I mean? And white folks, white geographers, white map makers, they tell the people in their worldview, oh, this Arab side over here, the Arabs, the Rabs, the lords over there, they're not your brothers and sisters. They're a different people altogether. Y'all on this side of the line, y'all Africans, black power. And you'd be like, well, what's that land over there that's not connected to Africa or Arabia? Oh, that land right there, that's Madagascar. And why is Madagascar, that's separate and distinct from Africa, considered Africa? Why is Madagascar part of Africa and Asia Minor, or the Arabs, are not part of Africa? Why, when we look at the Ten Commandments and we see the Hebrews running from Pharaoh, symbolically, they running from Pharaoh and his army, escaping through the Red Sea or the Reed Sea, and they leave out of Kemet, or they leave out of Egypt into the Promised Land, why is he running towards the east? Why is he running towards the Arab land? Why is he going on that side of the Red or the Reed Sea? Because it's really one land. It's just waters running on part of the land. So you could literally walk from Egypt, swim across the sea, and now walk in Arabia. You can walk in the east. Because it's all the same thing scientifically. Now religiously, it's divided all up. It's like, oh, they be like, oh, wait a minute. This little piece right here in Egypt is divided into all. This is Tripoli part. This is in Libya. This part of Libya is called Tripoli. Somebody cut that little piece. I was like, that's mine. Now I mean, it's like human nature. It's like the mafia. We always carving up our territories. We always want to play king of the mountain, if you will. Now I mean, we'd be like, this is Philadelphia. Okay. But the Germans came over, and the Germans ain't as racist as the rest of these white folks in Philadelphia. So the white Germans, before Hitler, is more with integration. There you got You know, they with abolitionist movements, they established Germantown. Not was it just a financially strong part of Philadelphia, it was the most integrated part of Philadelphia. Here you have, during the time of slavery, Germantown. It's a town being established where white folks and black folks is living together in North Philly in the hood. Huh? You can't even do that in this day and time. I mean, but the worldview of a person has to take into consideration that when you see Morocco and that borderline, the Straits of Gibraltar, you see, when you see Ghana, or look at the maps and study the countries in West Africa, those borders were not there 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million, a billion, a trillion years ago. We as human beings always shapeshift the planet Earth. Now, I mean, so we have to look bigger than that if we're to really understand this concept of black nationalism. Because the Europeans came in, and what they did was they divided the people against themselves. Now, I mean, like the Hutus, they be on the tip like, they taller than y'all. Y'all shouldn't like them. Now, I mean, be like, yeah, I ain't never liked them tall jokers anyway. And the tall people, oh, I don't like them short people anyway. Then you see the skinny Ethiopian Cushite come down. She's like, look at them Hottentots, them big butts, them big sisters. You know what I mean? I don't like them anyway. And the big, look at that skinny girl. That looks like she's starving. I thought she gonna have a baby. She ain't even got no hips on her. So now you have the original people, according to our lessons, fighting and arguing and killing each other because of Yaku's law of divide and conquer. So now we arguing over flags. So you got Africa, but you got all these different African flags. You got all these different African spiritual sciences or religions. You got all these different Arab flags, all these different Arab religions. They be like, we Muslim, I'm Sunni, I'm Shia, I'm Ahmadiyya, I'm Hanafi, I'm Ansar, I'm Maliki. All these different divisions of Dr. Yaku's tricknology inside the ranks. Even amongst white people, European, they broke that thing up to countless. Even the islands is broke. Them jokers fight a 1,000-year war on a British Isle. I mean, you know, they'll have all these countless flags. They be like Jesus. They got 1,000 different pictures of Jesus. They be like, we're Roman Catholics. I'm a Catholic. Now, I mean, I'm Jewish. I mean, I'm an Orthodox Jew. You got the black Jews, the Hebrew Jews. You got all kind of religions in Nippon, Japan, and China, and Chin. You got all these different religions and gods and divisions and borders all around New Zealand and Australia because of Dr. Yaku's law of tricknology. So Messenger Elijah Muhammad, in his wisdom, on page number 107, A Message to the Black Man in America. Let's look at page 107 for a minute on this black God of the universe that don't think inside the box like that. He tells us, why is the black man just coming into his own? Because he desired to try, experience, or trying everything himself. Today you see every color and power but the black man. Yet he is the originator of all. Now the great Mahdi, God in person, with his infinite wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, is going to put the original black man in his original place as he was at first, the God and ruler of the universe. Notice the general awakening of this number one man of these people throughout the world of mankind, the crushed ones of the five mentioned colors. The last 6,000 years have witnessed the most terrible blows, meant to complete the destruction of this color. That color is most adapted to any part of our planet under any climatic condition. Let me pause right there for a minute. Because, again, your worldview. A lot of people are like, Elijah Muhammad, you talking about the white man is the devil. He came from the black man. I mean, you got Christian pastors. I like a pastor that I like and respect, Pastor Geno Jennings. He was saying like, oh, the Nation of Islam, this Nation of Islam, this a racist outfit and this, that, and the other. God doesn't teach divisions and hatreds and things. And it's like, really? I mean, like you really studying that Bible? I mean, you know, come on now. Let's look at the world that God created, as they call it. Let's look at reality. Let's look at reality, no matter what you believe in. Muslim, atheist, Christian. The fact is this. The reality shows and proves this. For whatever reason, I'm not going to get into the causation. I believe everything has a cause, even if we don't understand what that cause is. But we ain't going to get into causation. We're just going to look at the effects. Let's go to the Pacific Ocean, or the Atlantic, or the Indian Ocean. Let's dive in there. What do we see in God's ocean? That you in the book of genes is the book of genetics, the book of Genesis or origins. Let's go back to the origin of this thing. When God, I mean, he made these things swimming under here. Did he make these things with a mentality of integration? What happens when these things try to integrate? They nullify the universal law of God. What happens when the dolphins try to marry the sharks? Why don't we see the big fish loving the little fish? Why don't we see the piranha fish swimming in the school of trout fish or silverfish? Why don't we see the school of blackfish marrying the school of whitefish? It's not hatred. It's the way Yahweh or Jesus or Allah or whatever name you want to put on the creator of creation established his or her or its universal throne. It's a balance there. There are simply fish that murder other fish. And there's fish that's like, we just was made vegetarian. I'll starve to death before I eat some meat. I don't eat pork. I'll die before I eat some pork. Some creatures, it just has this natural, intuitive instinct. It's something in their nature. It's something in their nature. So on the earth, we find this law prevails. We see that. I remember years ago we was growing some produce. We was growing like watermelons, cantaloupes, tomatoes, cucumbers, bell peppers, radish, sunflowers, blueberries, you name it. You know what I mean? Me and the FY at a Lost Temple of Islam. And the expert farmer, Mr. Matt Epps, he explained to us, he said, brothers, you have to understand when you plant tomatoes and say watermelons in the same garden, they'll choke each other out. The roots will literally kill each other. And that was real deep to me. I was like, they'll choke each other out. He's like, yeah. You know what I mean? And, you know, we did it anyway. You know what I mean? We had an organic, in fact, we won a horticulture award back then. It's like 1993, 94. But what we did was something, we modified the mathematics because we understood Mother Nature. We knew the old science of the earth. So we took and basically had it structured where those vines, instead of competing for the same waters and nutrients, we took and dug it deeper down to the earth so that those vines and roots would go down instead of going across and bumping into each other. So there is a thing in spirituality that we call mayat, or balance, or heaven, or paradise, or the hereafter, where the Creator is able to bring about balance. Isaiah puts it like this, that the snake, the serpent, won't even bite the baby. You know what I mean? You know, the lion ain't going to eat the lamb. The lion going to be a vegetarian. You know what I mean? But in this present world that we're living in, we have to understand the way God thinks. We got to elevate our consciousness. We can't ignore that we're living in a fallen state. We're living in what we call scripturally in a world of sin. So in this world, God has a will, an aim, and a purpose. This thing's like, listen, this ain't the time for the black crows to go figure out how they're going to integrate with the white seagulls. You're not going to see the red sparrows trying to take over and move in the nest with the blue jays. It's just nature doesn't do that. Not in this world. That's just not reality. That don't mean that reality can't vibrate on a higher plane, from that physical to the emotional to the mental to the spiritual to the soul up to the will. Anything's possible with the God. I mean, but is it necessary? And is it time? So in this world, we see that. We see that the plants do that. Now, I mean, you know, it's like you can produce manifestations that's not from God through integration. You can take and produce. You could take and mix fish. You can graft a red rose with a white rose and make a pink rose. I mean, you could take a lemon branch and cut it off and bud it to an orange tree and grow you a grapefruit. You could get you a donkey and a horse and keep them in the barn, and when that hormones kick in, they have sex and they're going to give birth to a mule. They're going to give birth to a grafted animal that did not directly come with God's creation, but it's on earth. Mules is like this. Henny's walking around right now. Now, I mean, grapefruits is in the supermarket right now. They did not come from a loss of white tie. They didn't come from, they came through the cause and effect of the mathematical laws of Islam that he set up in his universe. So heaven and hell, good and evil, we can make those things manifest by understanding who we are and what we're trying to do here. We have been oppressed for over 400 years in the hells of North America. The European has enslaved the brown, the yellow, the red, and the black man for the past 6,000 years. Plain and simple. Like, yeah, they, you know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, the war on drugs is that. They like, China suffered that. The Chinese be like, y'all forget. The British came over our country and turned it into Kensington and Allegheny back in the day. Hundreds of years ago, they flooded our people with dope and took over our whole culture. Because whenever a people follows another people's culture, that people becomes a slave to that people through the worship of that people's culture. So the Messenger's teachings on this goes on like this. He said, that color is most adapted to any part of our planet under any climatic condition. So the worldview that white people came about because the African migration and they went to the north and it was cold, so they turned white because it got cold up there. It's like, that's not science. That's your worldview. We respect that. That's your belief. We respect that. That's your religion. We respect that. But the problem with that theory is this. The black man, as the message said, their color is most adapted to any part of our planet under any climatic condition. The color of their eyes, black and white, is of all the others the best, the most beautiful of all. Their black hair, white teeth are all the best, for they are the best people. So a lot of people are like, oh, Nation Islam is anti-Africa. We're not anti-Africa. We're saying that you are limited in your Africa. You think Africa is 12 million square miles. See, we do the math. We do the science. Our lessons, 99 actual facts. Master Muhammad told us back in the 30s that there are 7 land continents. Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Antarctica, Australia, and Europe. Africa is 12 million square miles. Asia is 16 million square miles. Asia is bigger than Africa. When you look at science, when you look at a map, when you look at something like, say, Arabia, and you be like, we walked those across the Arabian deserts 2,200 miles. All right, that's the lessons. But let's look deeper into that. When you look at ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, you look at the Nile River. Master Muhammad explained to us that the Nile River is 4,690 miles long and 1 3/8 miles wide. 99 actual facts by Prophet W.D. Fard. All right. Now, the Nile River, the longest river on the planet, is running through ancient Kemet or Black Egypt. Our teacher and our teachings is when you look at a river, it naturally expands and contracts. So right now, the Nile River is 4,690 miles long and 1 3/8 miles wide. But that Nile River wasn't like that 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. So some lands don't even have a river. Sometimes the river is huge. Sometimes the river is a lake. And you know what I mean? So it expands and contracts based on the mathematics or the time frame you're talking about. So when you look at this old sand and they start digging in that old sand, they found King Tut's tomb. They found the Sphinx. They found all kinds of things that help enlighten us in this day and time regarding the past. Likewise, when we start seeing the earth revealing her burdens and shaking off that sand in that area of the world, the Black Yemenites, when you start seeing stuff in ancient Babylon or Iraq and ancient Persia, Iran, and ancient Becca or Mecca, that region, ancient Jeddah, which means the goddess or the grandmother, where Dr. Yaqub was born 20 miles from the holy city Mecca, according to Messenger Elijah Muhammad's divine teachings, you're going to find that that stuff always was there. We always had different borders and things. So when we say black nationalism, we're not limited to the European interpretation of European theories, the American theories. We look at and respect what they teach and say because they write on a lot of stuff. You're right on a lot of stuff. Know what I mean? But at the end of the day, our people migrated from what we call India today across the Bering Straits into what we call North America and Canada and Alaska and all that area. And the so-called Eskimos living in the freeze, they living in igloos. They living in the cold where the polar bears and seals are at. Penguins running around. The penguin is black and white. And it's running around, but the penguin didn't turn white because it's cold. The Eskimos didn't turn white because they're cold, because albinism is a genetic mutation. You can have that mutation if a volcano erupted and radiation came out that volcano, it could turn a black tree into a white tree. You'll see a white tree, an albino tree, an albino flower, a white flower, an all-white African gorilla, an all-white African lion. Here's a lion in a hot jungle and it's white. That lion ain't turned white because it got cold in Africa. It turned white because there was some type of mutation in his DNA, in his genetics. So we have dominant and recessive genes. So the messenger, he explained that that color is most adapted to any part of our planet under any climatic condition. They haven't had that day in many thousands of years. So our people have to understand, whenever a people follows another people's nationality, that people becomes a slave to that people through that worship of that people's nationality. So you'd be like, Americans. If a person comes from Morocco today and another person comes from China today, in this day and time, in our era, they just came off the boat today and they took and filled out the paperwork, they was approved instantly, and their thing is they took their allegiance, they pledged their allegiance to the United States, and they're now considered American citizens. That's how the real world works. If you're in Rome, you do what Romans do. When the Romans were gangsters. The Romans ran stuff, the Egyptians was gangsters. The Hebrews was gangsters. I mean, the Moors was gangsters. They were smart gangsters. They was also gods and goddesses. The white Romans had white gods and goddesses. So our people understood power. They understood culture. They understood ingenuity. They were creative. Now, I mean, they gave the world a lot from their cultures. So as an FOI, I'm like, I can't be a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad if I don't claim my nationality, if I don't claim that I'm a Moor too. I claim my nationality. I can't be a follower of the messenger if I'm not 5%. I'm a poor righteous teacher. I mean, then I believe in the teachers of the 10%. So I don't have no problem with it. I'm Christian. I'm Baptist. I'm a Hebrew. I'm a black Hebrew. I'm like, yeah, the Canaanite, I know they were black folks. No doubt. I mean, you're the chosen of God. Yeah, you're the real Jew and all that. So they have us arguing over our worldviews, not realizing that we're talking about the same thing. Now, the Holy Prophet said something back here that simplified it before Messenger Elijah Muhammad, Master Muhammad, and they incorporate the exact same doctrine with the Nation of Islam to this day. The uniting of Asia. The uniting of Asia. Now, when we say the uniting of Asia, we're not talking about, like a lot of people like, you talking about Asia, y'all ain't Chinese, y'all ain't just, y'all ain't from, it's like, stop letting your worldview be based on the oppressor's foundation. The messenger put it real simple. He told us, if the white man did not treat you right, what makes you think he's going to teach you right? Nah. I mean, it's a thing where the uniting of Asia. Asia is Africa. Africa is the world. The world is the solar system. The solar system is the galaxy. The galaxy is the universe, covering 230 quintillion, 640 quadrillion miles. So we're living on a planet 24,896 miles. I mean, we have 1,157 quintillion miles is our galaxy. The messenger teaches us that we're world citizens. I don't care where you're migrating to or migrating from your home, if you're a black man or black woman. The earth is your home. The earth is your arse, is your throne. It's the throne of Allah, the whole planet. And before we had all these little borders, and before the land masses broke up into 7 continents, they was all connected together like a jigsaw puzzle. We call it Asia. And we were Asiatics. Asia means world, Ati means tribe, Atik or a citizen. So we were world citizens. Our things like, you go wherever you want to go. The original people of France were black. The original people of Germany was black. The original Irish were black. The original Arabs were black. The original Indians were black. The original Chinese were black. The messenger explained to us 50,000 years ago, a tribe of our people migrated into what we call Africa, that part of Africa today, the jungle part. Now, keep in mind, 50,000 years ago, it wasn't like it is now. There was no sand. There was no Arabian desert. That side, if you look underneath that sand, all that, you see what? Oil. Why is Saudi Arabia so rich? Oil. Why is the world so addicted to oil? It runs the world today. What is oil? Oil is ancient dead people, dead animals, dead trees, dead carbon. Oil, the fact that there's so much oil there lets you know in antiquity it was so much life there. Think that over for a moment. It's now a desert. All of the organic matter is liquefied. But if you go way, 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 way back in time, how long ago the message tell us? 76 trillion years ago. That's how long we've been on this planet. 76 trillion years ago. So we can't go get a dictionary and tell you our origin. We can't tell you that we had a beginning over here, that we're going to end here. We have no beginning nor ending. We are older than the sun, moon, and stars. The endonym is what they use as a common name for the people or place. So the Moors are really known as Moors because of their movements in North Africa. But there's no difference from the Moors from accepting people in and out of their culture. The Moors wasn't in a box. The Moors of Morocco, for example, the Maghreb, that thing was like somebody came and traveled from, I'm just using this hypothetically, say somebody came from Ethiopia or Kush, and they migrated to Morocco, and they fell in love with a beautiful sister in Morocco, and they had a baby, and they stayed in Morocco. That person that came from Ethiopia will be like, oh, before I got there, my dad came from Yemen. My grandfather came from Azania or South Africa. So our things, we just black family. We black folks. You know what I mean? It's like we move over North Philly, South Philly, West Philly. Like my mom was living in North Philly, but my dad broke up. We moved out West Philly. And I was born in West Philly, and when I was 3, I moved to South Philly. They be like, I was born in Puerto Rico, but I moved to the Bronx. I mean, so we don't limit ourselves to say, oh, I'm only from South Bronx. It's like, I claim the South Bronx, but I don't ignore or neglect my Spanish roots, my African roots, I mean, my Taino Indian roots, I mean, the Lord of the Islands, they were the gods and goddesses of Puerto Rico. They were the lords, they were the Taino Indians. They was like, ain't no spooky stuff jumping off over here back in the day. But if you look at things under a certain point in time and think that that's it, you're like, oh, the Puerto Ricans, they don't want to be independent of America. They want to be a commonwealth of the rich United States of America. Not all of them. I mean, it's like anything. You have FOI and MGT that believe the messenger teachers that just simply don't understand some things. You have Moors, Christians, Buddhists, Hindu, everybody. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? So we're going to pause right there for today. And I want to thank you for listening. And I want you to understand that when we say Asiatic and we say black, we're saying Asiatic because that is our nationality. But when we say Asiatic, we're not talking about some little piece of Asia Minor or the 16 million square mile continent of Asia. We're saying Asiatic in the contents of black power, in the contents of black nationalism, meaning that all black people, the Haitians, the Dominicans, the Jamaicans, the Puerto Ricans, the so-called Latinos, the Mexicans, we're all brothers and sisters. We're all black. Before your flag, before your Moses, your Buddha, your prophet, before your holy book was written, before your religion was conceived, before your language was spoken or written, before your borders were mapped out, before the land masses broke up, before there was a planet called Earth or Asia, before there was a sun or Ra in the sky, before ancient Egypt existed or Kemet, before the moon was in the sky 66 trillion years ago, before the stars lit up the galaxy covering 157 quintillion miles, there was what? Blackness. The whole entire universe is our home. Black power. The struggle continues. Salam Allah. Your brother in the struggle, Brother Minister Ali. I would like to share a few excerpts from a few books with the family. This is the Kabbalion, and I would like to share with you page number 54. It reads, "Where fall the footsteps of the Master? The ears of those ready for his teachings open wide. Where fall the footsteps of the Master? The ears of those ready for his teachings open wide. Sometimes we're not ready to hear or learn God's word. Human beings, we by nature are designed to block out sounds. There's all kind of sound waves traveling around us. So you can't have the ocean roaring, the wind blowing through the trees, earthquakes, birds in the air, animals barking and squealing, and have a conversation or take a nap. So our eardrums are designed to tune things out and to tune things in. In modern simple language, we say, do you listen or do you hear? See, sometimes we can hear the truth, but we're really not listening to it. The sound waves is traveling 1,120 feet per second as normal. It's just that we're not really trying to tune in on it. So where the footprints of Master Fard Muhammad go, you want to tune in on that if you want to understand the teachings of the Master. The messenger teaches us in our sayers arrive that we're supposed to become masters ourselves by following the master teacher, Master Fard Muhammad. Let this mind that's in Christ Jesus be in you. Greater works than Jesus' works you can do. I'd like to give you another quote from The Secret of the Ages of Robert Collier, page number 43 on this subject. It reads, the fact that our limited human senses take in but a small fraction of the infinite life around us, our ears, for instance, are attuned to only a few of the sound waves that are constantly beating upon our eardrums. Yeah, this book, I used some type of magic marker, and over the years it got darker and darker, so you really can't see it. But he was showing us basically the same principle in The Secret of the Ages. You know what I mean? That our ears are attuned to certain frequencies, to be able to tune in. The messenger was taught by Master Fard Muhammad that the prophet Isa, or Jesus, was taught by one of the scientists how to tune in. It's like having a radio in your head. You know what I mean? Like if I take my phone and open up a music app, say I go on YouTube and I go to, say, Beyonce's new album just came out. Say I go to Beyonce's. I would hear the proper vibrations because I'm tuned in. Because everything that I did was mathematical. If I didn't power the phone on, the phone is off. I have to power the phone on. If I don't hold the button long enough, I'm not going to be able to tune in. I'm going to be locked out from that musical note. But it's face recognition. My phone don't work unless it see me. I mean, so if I take and open up the phone, now I can take and scroll up in there, put in my passwords. It's mathematical steps that you got to take. A lot of people don't want to do those mathematical steps. A lot of people don't know the mathematical steps. So they never could get beyond. They may eventually make it on YouTube and they hear Jay-Z. Now, I mean, you know, they hear Lil Wayne. I mean, they hear a oldie. But they didn't get Beyonce's new album. They'd be like, oh, I heard Beyonce's old stuff, but I couldn't get her new song that just came out. I couldn't get Mary J. Blige's new song. I couldn't get her new song. I couldn't get brand Nubian, or whatever it is that they was looking for. Because you got to have the right frequency. There's dense and thin waves, vibrations, the law of vibration, the Kabbalah. Everything always takes you right back to the 7 Hermetic principles of the Kabbalah. You know what I mean? But the main thing is cause and effect. We call it, in the messenger teachings, Islam. I would like for you to review a quote from Christianity versus Islam very briefly. This is page number 33. On the resurrection and the hereafter. The resurrection of the dead only means bringing up people mentally dead or blind, deaf, and dumb, as they call it. Blind means that you are too spiritually blind that you cannot understand or see the truth and distinguish it from falsehood. And deaf means your ears are so rebellious against truth that you will not allow them to listen to the truth. So here again, do you listen or do you hear? You're like, yeah, I heard you. You're like, go clean the room. Go take the trash out. All right. My mom coming. Why you ain't take the trash out? I heard it, but I wasn't really listening. I'm trying to play my little Pac-Man game right now, Donkey Kong. And the hard head make a soft behind. Because I'm going to have to take that trash out. She get pissed. So she know how to make me listen. She know how to make me hear. She can say it a certain way that tells me because of the intensity of the vibration. She can ask me a question that even as a child I know she don't want to answer. She's being rhetorical. She like, Joker, you know the answer. So instead of asking me to take the trash, she could just ask me, did you take that trash out? Oh, I got it right now. I'm dropping whatever. I'm my homies, my mom home. You know what I mean? So the hard-headed student, in one way or another, learns. But our people as a whole, the message explained to us that we're mentally or symbolically blind, deaf, and dumb. He said, deaf means your ears are so rebellious against truth that you will not allow them to listen to the truth. And your tongue, or you're dumb because that you don't allow your tongue to practice the truth and nor receive the teachings of the truth. Therefore your tongue is like one that cannot even speak because it knows nothing about the truth, nor can it talk on the truth. So you're called blind, deaf, and dumb. And there is no such thing as the physical body coming up out of the earth, nor the physical form will take on a new voice. You'll have a new body from this old one. But it is like this according to the teachings of the Quran, that it will be reversed. Instead of going into decay, it will go into use again like an old tree that starts budding out new blossoms or new limbs. This is what will happen to you that see the hereafter. You will start growing into a new growth, which will take you back to your youth again, into teenagers. And you will remain like that if you live here 1,000 years, because there won't be any decaying on the other side. What I mean, the other side after destruction or disappearance of the white man's world. There will be no decay in the black man. Everything under this number 6 decays because it was built upon that particular principle or nature that it should decay and die away. So here, Messenger Elijah Muhammad is sharing with us something that Master Muhammad taught him that's in his last book, Al Sayers Arrive also. And the message basically tells us that in the hereafter, we will have the youthfulness and the vitality, meaning that mentally, see, you don't want to look young and be old. You don't want to look young and feel old. You know what I mean? You don't want to think old and look young. So the message explained that in the hereafter, we literally would be on such a high vibration that Master Muhammad told them that we won't physically die unless we want to die. And we will have the youth and vitality of a 16-year-old. You know what I mean? So that is in our DNA. The process is happening now as we get closer and closer to eating 1 meal a day, eating a vegetarian diet, thinking pure thoughts, cleaning up the pollution in the environment that we live in, taking all the negative ideas and Yaku's technology away, removing all the spooky stuff that's taking place right now amongst the people, getting rid of that mystery God concept. All of these mathematical things is going to help our DNA restructure herself. Now, I mean, it literally, the helix will actually restructure itself, because the Europeans say that we die. There's no such thing as life and death. That's the polarity. Is life is death. Death is life. Hot water is cold water. Cold water is hot. It's just that if the water is vibrating real fast, it's hot. If it vibrates real slow, it's ice. If it vibrates medium, it's liquid. It's the same water. It's the same unified system. It's the same universe. It's the same one word. Be, kun, and it is. Kun, fire, kun. So the hereafter, the messenger teaches us that we will have the look and feel of a 16-year-old. Now, I mean, he allows us to grow into a new growth. He alone makes all things new. Bible, Revelations chapter 21. Now, I mean, he's not making new things. He's taking old things, transforming or vibrating them into a whole new level, where he, Allah, makes all things that's old, that's already here, the same atoms, but they're going to vibrate to produce new stuff. If you burn an apple tree with the apple, and you burn the seeds, and you burn the apple roots, and you burn the apple bark, and it's pure black carbon ash again, and you come back 1,000, 10,000 years from now, fruit will grow. It won't be the apples we see today. It won't be a golden apple, a delicious apple, it'll be a whole new fruit. He, Allah, makes all things new. So it is with our mind and bodies. The way we think right now, this spooky concept, that concept of a mystery God, is just going to fade from our memory. It's not even going to be in our subconscious like that. That kernel is going to always be there, but we're going to vibrate on such a high level that the electron cloud, the negative force, is going to be so recessive, all we're going to think of is the 5%. No 85%, no neutral forces, no negative force. They're there, but we're not going to have it vibrating on a level where someone else could come graft another devil in the future. That'll never happen again. You'll never go back to a mystery God. You'll be too busy expanding your universe, letting the sun burn out. It's 108 times bigger than Earth. We be walking and living on the sun. It's a whole new world waiting for us in that hereafter. Pure thoughts and pure environment. Mind, body, and environment. Think that over, family.